Hello, my Teaserking family. Happy Sunday to you. We got the NFL playoffs going on. 3 games that we can actually watch today. It is amazing that they put the game on Amazon Prime. So they lost a lot of viewers because how many people have Amazon Prime versus ABC or NBC or whatever the hell you want to call it. So let's do football first. Then we'll get a little into Mark McGuire. I really am trying to show you, like he's saying that Tomax is breaking up. So I really want to get into the why, which is mostly they're running out of gold. Let me get my coffee. So I apologize for doing that, but as most of you know, I don't start eating till 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock. And I usually like to do the class around 11. All right. So Mark McGuire is trying to tell us that it's blowing up because everybody's asking for delivery because of Basel III. The Chinese, the Russians, the Indians, all the BRICS countries, because the price is very low. So that's the first reason. Keeping a price under market increases demand anyway. But when you add the fact that they're putting money to death and it's got no value, and you got to get out of it to get into money that has value, gold and silver, it's a double kick. So we will get into that after football. So let's look at football. 3 games today. So yesterday, I had San Diego plus 3.5, which lost. And I had over in the Pitt Baltimore game, which won. And they were in different teasers. San Diego, Herbert threw 4 picks. I find that these offensive coordinators are the same on every team. They want to throw these passes out, and if you get rushed, they can't really. They just throw them. No imagination on the play calling, I find. And Herbert, again, there's no little screen passes and little crossing routes. Where the hell's all that? So they never should have lost. I mean, well, he threw a pick 6 and another pick for that ended at the 5-yard line for a touchdown. So that's 2 touchdowns. Where was San Diego? They got 3 and 3. They got 6 points in the first quarter, which you knew was going to be trouble. They should have been up 14-0. And then where were they the rest of the game? So again, the better team didn't win there. San Diego is much better than Houston. The problem I have with the Houston coach is if you can do that, where were you losing to Tennessee and losing to Jacksonville and losing to Indy? I mean, you're very inconsistent, to say the least. I don't know. I don't think they're a very good team and a very inconsistent team. So you've got to learn to do that every week. And if Houston did that, they did it against the Lions. Then they lost to Tennessee, Jacksonville, Indy, all these teams. Really? So you really question the coach. You really question the offensive coordinator. Our defense plays well at times. CJ Stroud plays well at times, but he's not consistent. Anyway, so that was the first loser, San Diego plus 3.5. My the normal play on that game should have been under, which would have won. Because San Diego, I play under a lot, but they've been scoring, so I've been taking San Diego as opposed to the under because of their ability to score. So I kind of was pissed about that. There's certain games you play the under, and certain games you play the over. So I pointed out the top defenses. And they are Denver, San Diego, and Kansas City. And there was one other one. And like that, you got to be careful there. So I didn't play the game over, but I should have played the under in the game. But that happens. There's a lot of games lately where I don't know which way to take it. I like the team and I like the total. The night game, any teaser wins. This is what people don't understand about teasers. Just play the teaser. You win Pittsburgh, you win Baltimore, you win over, you win under. I happen to have the game over, which I won in the third quarter. Baltimore wins by 14. They're laying 10, so you get 16 as a winner, which I thought would be the prudent bet there. But as bad as Pittsburgh's been looking, and they couldn't score on Cincinnati, I didn't get a credit. It was not Russell Wilson's fault. It's the offensive coordinator. This Arthur Smith is a joke. What is he doing as a head coach, more or less an offensive coordinator? He doesn't even understand football. Hard to explain how this guy is an offensive coordinator. Just so bad. Just so stupid. The problem with it is you got to understand art of war. Okay, where's my strengths? Russell Wilson. Where's their weakness? They have no pass, no secondary. The Baltimore secondary stinks. Where were you taking advantage of it? That one play with Pickens, that was it. So very weak coaching, very weak offensive coordinator. Russell Wilson's playing great. It's not him. No running attack. And Pickens and Freiermuth, but Pickens only plays once in a while. Most of the time he doesn't give a shit. And he shouldn't be on the team. They could do a lot better than Pickens. It's a joke he's on the team. And it's a joke he's the number one receiver. Then they had no balance with no running attack. You don't learn taking Alabama players, do you? Najee Harris, not a very good running back. You look at teams that are good, like Detroit, like Ohio State. What do they have? Balance, good running, good passing. You can't play defense against them because you don't know which way they do it. That's the key to it. All right, so 1-1 yesterday. Let's look at today's games. Denver, Buffalo. Buffalo, there's a 7.5 and 8s and total of 48, up from 47. Weather's fine. Injuries are fine. Philly and Green Bay. Philly's 5.5 and 45.5. Just a second. All right. And then we got Tampa 3 and 50 with Washington. And we got Minnesota 2.5, 48 against the Rams. So now the point is, what type of teams are these? Denver, Buffalo. Who do you have? Buffalo's all Josh Allen, a little bit with Cook, the Georgia running back. Funny how the Georgia players are always better than the Alabama players. But the LSU players are very good also. Denver, we got Bo Nix. Pretty good defense. They'll blitz a lot. Josh Allen cannot handle a blitz. What's his total? 48 and 8. So what do we think the score is going to be? Do we think Buffalo is going to blow them out? Not a chance. Denver hangs in. Are they experienced enough to win the game is the question. Not sure. Total, Buffalo plays a high-scoring game. Denver has been scoring lately. So I think there's points in the game. Let's check weather. 32 and sunny, 10-mile-an-hour winds. So weather should be fine for the game. Playoff game. Now, Denver hasn't been there now, except for the coach. Sean Payton's been there, and he won the Super Bowl. So keep your eye on that. You've got to – I don't know. Buffalo maybe wins. Close. For Denver to win this game, they got to come up defensively. And Bo Nix can't have any turnovers. Buffalo always a good home team. They have problems with Master Mahomes. So Nix is not in that class. Now, you do have Sean Payton, who's been there and done it and won Super Bowls. So I think this game's a lot closer than they think. Green Bay, Philly. Now, here's where you have this really strong defense in Philly and a pretty strong defense in Green Bay. Green Bay's a 20 defense. Philly's an 18. After watching yesterday, do you take anything away from yesterday's game? This is probably sort of similar to the San Diego-Houston game. Herbert with a lot of turnovers. Josh Love's been turning it over. Hurts is just terrible. He's nowhere near Herbert. But they got Barkley. So that gives them balance. So if you try to take Barkley away, Hurts is decent enough to make some plays. He's not good enough to win the game by himself, but he's decent enough to make some plays. So I think Barkley's the key here. Green Bay lost to Minnesota twice, lost to Detroit twice. So not a winner. Love, not a winner. A decent quarterback at times. Sometimes he sucks. The defense is okay, not great. So I think Philly's defense and Barkley get the W here. I would think so, and uh, I think Philly wins it because of the defense. Washington, Tampa, 3-50. The Baker against Daniels. Now, can Daniels go and win on the road, sort of, quote, as a rookie? Well, I don't care that he's a rookie. That's immaterial. He played for LSU. They played Alabama. He had more stress there than he's going to have here. I think Daniels is talented enough to get the win. Both teams have suspect defenses. They're both 23. Well, if we look at San Diego with the 18 defense, Houston, I don't get at all, 22 defense, and they shut them down. Denver with a good defense, not Buffalo. Green Bay with a 20, Philly with an 18. And then you got Washington, Tampa with 23 defenses. So, to me, the keys, Washington going into Philly with 5 turnovers and winning 36-33. You scored 36 points on Philly, and they were trying at that point, and Washington had to win the game. Philly, I think, had clinched the playoffs, but they hadn't clinched the division. Philly, back against the wall, had to win to keep their hopes to getting into the playoff, and they win. So all these games were Washington had to win, then they won at Dallas, and they won, and they beat Atlanta. So Washington had to beat Atlanta in a playoff game, and they won. And then they had to beat Philly, and they won. And then last week with the second team, they beat Dallas with Mariota. We hope we don't see Mariota today. Excuse me. Tampa doesn't have that kind of defense to stop Daniels and all what he does. But Washington doesn't have the defense. Baker has been playing very good. This should be a shootout. And then it comes in, do I take Washington in the 9 or do I go over in the game? And that's where I've been having problems. I've been going one way and that loses and the other way wins. Hopefully not in this game. Washington is a very strong team. I don't think that it's a playoff game. They already had the playoff game against Atlanta and against Philly. They won both of them. Again, you scored 36 on Philly. Nobody did that. And Daniels, he's a good runner. He's a great passer. Unlike Lamar, he actually can throw it to his guy. Right? Not like Lamar. We don't know where he's throwing it to. So anyway, just be careful there. But this should have a lot of points in it. And all we need is the total is 50. That's 28-23. And in the teaser, it's a 44. All we need is 24-20. That'll probably be a halftime score. So in the Denver game, you got Sean Payton is the difference. And in the Washington game, Daniels is the difference. And then that leaves us to the last game, which is really weird. Minnesota 2.5, 48 in Arizona. And this is Minnesota, as we know, is 30-4 in the teaser the last 2 years, losing to Detroit. So everybody's worried that Darnell will look like he did against Detroit. where he did it. Well, the Rams don't have that type of defense, number one. I would assume they've gone over what a blitz is, and Darnold now understands what a blitz is. And maybe they put in some shorter routes, like the back out of the backfield. Against the Lions, he's holding the ball. Now, it didn't affect him in the first game against the Lions. And it was just Detroit at home. It's a very loud environment, apparently. People ask me if I'm going. I go, they'd have to pay me to go to a Lions game. The worst organization in the history of life. And the car company is the same way. Ford is terrible. Bunch of idiots running around. There's no leadership. But if your name isn't Ford, you can't do anything. Bobby Bo, how are you? Playoffs are here. Daniels will pull it off. I agree with you. I think Daniels, as I said, I think he had bigger games when LSU played Alabama than this game. This game's nothing. And then in a big game against Atlanta 2 weeks ago, he won that one. So anyway, let's go. Medals are going. Did you see Mark McGuire came back on? I'll be showing you that. I think Luke's more talk than action, than really bothered by it. Luke's in the position where he owns the medals. So he's crying they should go up. And I'm like, keep eating the medals. Keep eating them. Don't stop. Keep eating them. So in this game, Minnesota is at Arizona, which now makes LA a road dog instead of a home dog. That's huge, even though they don't have any fans anyway. Stafford, the last few games, he sucked. He's literally, they got 9 points against the Jets in Arizona, not scoring at all. Hopefully the week off helped him. It's a playoff game. He'll be dialed in with Pukanuka and Cooper Kupp. So I'm expecting Minnesota will pressure a lot, that he'll be able to beat that because he knows what a blitz is. It's amazing how the quarterbacks come up. They can't take the ball from center, and they have no idea what a blitz is. How can Sam Darnold look as bad as he looked last week, like it was the first time he ever saw a blitz? I don't even understand it. I mean, you see it in high school. Are you kidding me? Where's your hot read? No, I'm going to throw it 20 yards to Jefferson downfield if I have time or not. Then he kept bailing out of the thing. So I don't think the Rams defense isn't like that. They have a very weak defense. It's actually a 20 defense. But I think they had some bad weather games. The Niner game was raining, and the Jet game was cold, and God knows what happened in the Arizona game. I think they rested their players. But their last 3 games, they haven't scored 15 points. That's a problem. So I think there's points in this game. I think Minnesota's a 30-point team. I think after last week, I'm sure Jefferson had a talk with the offensive coordinator, who has his head up his ass also. Between the Pittsburgh offensive coordinator and the Minnesota offensive coordinator, where do they get these idiots from? These guys are horrible. They have no concept what they're doing. General Chow, Bobby. All right, Bobby's filling us up. Oh, shit. That's in Arizona. You don't know that. I said that. The fire thing, that's right. I didn't think about that. Oh, yeah, the general is back. Yeah, no, that game's in Arizona. We knew about it a couple days ago. It helps Minnesota because now LA's got to go play at Arizona, where they play every year, and it's in a dome. So that's went from a dome to a dome, and Minnie's a dome team. I think it's a good game. It's got to be better than the San Diego Houston crap that we watched yesterday. I mean that I didn't know that. Sorry. No, that's okay, Bobby Bone. Yeah. No, well, it's just been announced a few days ago. But anyway, so those are your games today. So again, Houston beats San Diego. They're, I believe, the 4 seed. Baltimore beats Pitt. Say goodbye to Baltimore. They're done after now. They're done. If Buffalo wins, then Baltimore goes to Buffalo. That's game over for Baltimore. And then Kansas City's waiting for Houston. Yeah, so unless Denver wins, if Denver wins, then it's Denver at KC and Houston goes to Baltimore. But I don't know. Denver could win with Sean Payton. And then the NFC, Philly at home should get the W. Washington could easily upset Tampa. Should be a lot of points. Minnesota and the Rams should be a lot of points. I don't know. Minnie's got pretty good defense. I would take Minnie if they were the dog here. No problem. The Rams really nothing team. Not a good defense. Not a playoff defense. So that's what you have there. In the other, we've got Ohio State is what, 7 to Notre Dame, and the total 52.5, I think. What do I got here? Oh no, Ohio State is 8.5, total 45.5. Let's see if that stayed. It's 8.5, 45.5 on all the books. Okay, so that stayed. There's really not much. I mean, that's going to be a defensive struggle. Riley Leonard's terrible. Notre Dame, great defense, very weak offense. Ohio State, strong defense. They're not going to score in this game. This will be a low-scoring game. You can see Notre Dame's defense taking over. Ohio State, they're going to freak out and think it's Michigan because it's just like Michigan's defense. They will take the receivers away, forcing Howard to run the ball more. Good luck with that. Can Notre Dame win? I don't think so. They don't have the offense to win, but they have a good defense, so we will see. Anyway, so today, why is there a Monday game in the playoffs is absolutely ridiculous. Minnesota and LA get screwed because they're going to play either Saturday or Sunday next week, which is absolutely ridiculous. They're probably rooting for Washington to beat Tampa. I don't think Green Bay can beat Philly. And then the loser of the mini Ram game gets Philly instead of Detroit. Anyway, so we'll see about that tonight. So at least the games are 1, 4:30, and 8 o'clock. So we get to actually watch the game. It was just incredibly stupid. We couldn't watch the Pittsburgh game. It's not on regular TV. I don't know what they're thinking. Well, they'll all buy ESPN to watch it. Or no, it was on Prime or Apple or something. Like, who the fuck's going to buy that to watch this game? What are you, insane? It's Lamar. We don't give a fuck about Lamar. We care about Burrow and we care about Mahomes. We don't care about Lamar. He stinks. Anyway, I'm getting tired of all these replays. Like, why are the refs who are 3 feet away can't make the call? I don't know. Every touchdown's turned back, which is a joke. They don't do that at the 20-yard line when the guy hits too many replays. I think they're trying to fuck the society over with the laws, and you got to obey the laws and obey the government and all this crap because way too much replay, way too much. Was he in or out? Who gives a fuck? What did the ref call? Why do you have a ref? If the ref's there, then the ref's there. And if he calls it a completion, it's completion. If he calls it a first down. And what is this yard line to gain? What is that? Think about it. Line to gain. It doesn't mean anything. This is the line to gain. This is the first down line. Call a spade a spade. If it's a first down line, call it first down line, like they always did. So they keep changing the names. That's a communist thing. Anyway, it's just hard to watch. I watched a little of the San Diego game. It was 6-0, and I turned on a movie. It was like, okay, I can't handle it. That's huge. I thought Rams would maybe have a chance at home, but now I don't like them. Yeah, well, they don't have a defense. They didn't replace Aaron Donald, and Stafford's not really been doing much, but they do have the receivers. I think they can score, but they don't have the defense. Patriots just hired Mike Vrabel as their new head coach. Well, why did they hire the other guy? He hired Jared Mayo, who never coached before, not even high school. This is the pros. This is like bringing in a CFO who has never been a CFO before. I mean, it's crazy. But very well I like. I don't know why New England. And they think that Drake Mays, their franchise quarterback, this is where they get into problems. They thought Fields was. They thought Kenny Pickett was. They thought Mitch Trubisky was. And they waste 5 years thinking they have the franchise quarterback when me and you can see, no, he's not there. Drake May, do you ever get him confused with Daniels or Penix or Nix? Never. JJ McCarthy is the same thing. If they think that he's any good, watch Michigan because he sucked. Yeah, I agree, Professor. I don't like that Monday night playoff game. Well, it really hurts the team the following week. It's going to be Saturday, Sunday. What are you doing putting on a Monday night game? And what's bad enough is the college championship game is next Monday, and that's Martin Luther King Day. And I am sure nobody wants to play on Martin Luther King Day. We don't work on Martin Luther King Day. It's a respect for Martin Luther King. You don't work on it, and yet the NFL, or the college wants to have the championship game because the NFL has Saturday and Sunday. It's ridiculous. These people have no idea what they're doing. Should have just had 3 games yesterday, 3 games, and that's of course. And then you're down to 4 and 4. And, yeah, Drake May is a joke, and I can't believe the Minnesota is actually waiting and exiting for him to debut next. Meanwhile, we both know that he clearly sucks, and he will not be a good NFL quarterback. And the same thing with J.J. McCarthy. I mean, why do I like Penix and Daniels and Bo Nix? Because I saw him in college, and I saw him against good teams, playoff games, big games, and they came through. And so that gives you an idea. What did Drake May do? He was on North Carolina. How many big games did they win? Oh, yeah, 0. Maybe they beat Duke. I don't like – I'm looking at the mock draft for this year, and it's got Cam Ward and Prime Jr., and nobody's looking at Dylan Gabriel. So first of all, I would be taking between Scatterboo and the Boise running back, the Iowa running back. Those would be in the top 5 for me. Prime Jr. is not good. Who thinks he's good? I read you the stats yesterday. I don't think he got 30 touchdown passes. Hunter, I don't. Why would you draft Hunter? You're not going to make him a two-way player. Is he a good corner? Is he a good receiver? I can give you 20 better. So I don't see drafting him. He's a waste of time. That's like that guy from Michigan, Peppers, who sucks. He's on the Jets or the Giants or New England now, and he's always injured. So where did you think, so he sucked in college and they made a big deal because he could play safety. And look at Derek Woodson from Michigan, right? I can't think of his first name. He was a cornerback and a receiver, but he only played cornerback in the pros. And that's what this guy will probably play cornerback, because it's much harder to find a cornerback than a receiver. And is he a good cornerback? He's only good because he played both sides, which is just a joke. It doesn't make him a good player. It just shows you how weak Colorado was. They didn't have a good corner and a good receiver. It's like Otani playing the guy in the field and pitching and hitting. And then you notice he gets to the Dodgers, he's just the DH. He doesn't even play the field and he doesn't pitch. I would never have paid him that kind of money. I think that was a joke. He's not a player because in the World Series he gets hurt and he cries and that's it. He doesn't play. These guys, the two-way guys, it's just a gimmick and it doesn't work. But I would definitely get Genty, the guy from Boise. You put him. He's like a Henry, and today Barkley. You'll see teams that can run win, and the teams that can't run are just trying to throw the ball all over the place, and then they get in the red zone. They can't complete shit. Look at Minnesota last week. They had no running. They get in the red zone, and it's 4 passes incomplete because there's no room to throw. How does an offensive coordinator not have the concept down that when you get inside the 5, the end zone's 10 yards? That's it. These guys don't have to cover anybody. They put 6, 7 guys back there. They got 2 or 3 watching for crossing routes. And then you're trying to throw a prayer miracle that you throw it to the back pylon or the front pylon or any of these, which are just miracle throws. The guys are never open. You have to run the ball. Minnesota shows you they don't run. Green Bay a little bit. Philly's got Barkley. So if I'm a team here, I need a running back. There's no quarterback. The only quarterback I would draft, Dylan Gabriel, and I'll have to look at my mix, my stats to find a few quarterbacks. I haven't done that yet, but Louisville's got a good quarterback. Shaw, Texas Tech always has a good quarterback. I don't think I'd take LSU's guy. Alabama, Milrose is terrible. Georgia, the guy got beat out and it's transferred back. That's how bad he is. He got transferred. He's in the transfer portal. He's a starting quarterback at Georgia. He's in the transfer portal. I don't like Howard. I liked him at Kansas State, but he really sucks now at Ohio State. He's nothing. I don't know. Indiana's got a pretty good quarterback, but he's not a first rounder. So you're not going to find a quarterback that's a really good one, except for Gabriel. That's it. They got one quarterback. Prime Jr. is not one. And for sure, Cam Ward is not a quarterback. Watching him at Washington State, I remember we had that in class where some guy loved Cam Ward, and but wait till he gets on the road against the good teams, and he got killed by Oregon. He got killed by Washington. So he's not your answer. It was a fluke at Miami, but he won't do anything. He's probably the same as not a Lamar. He can throw better. He's a good thrower, but he's not a number 1 draft pick. You do that, you're really asking for trouble. But if I'm one of these decent teams, I would get the running back between Gentry, the kid from Iowa, the kid from Scatterboo from Arizona State. There's a few other good ones that I would go after them first, not receivers. You do not take a receiver in the first round. You take a running back. maybe a quarterback, and enough with the offensive lineman in the first round. Absolutely ridiculous. Bobby should have just had 3 games. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Drake may. Yeah, okay. So the same thing. Okay. So the draft will be a joke. It's like they don't know what they're doing. It's like analytics. Oh, it's fourth down. Analytics say we go for it. We go for it. It's not coaching. It's not having any skill at all. And they just go for it because analytically it's 51% to go. I should go without understanding anything about the game. You've got to understand the situation and the field position and what's going on in the game. And it's fine. It's perfectly good to punt, especially if you have a good defense. Then we have, so that's what they're doing in the draft. They don't know what they're doing. They're not watching the games. They're not watching the quarterbacks. If they did, Caleb would not have been taken 1. It would have been Daniels, and it would have been Penix 2, and then it would have been Bo Nix 3 if they paid attention to the games. But they don't. They do the analytics, and that's where you get a Drake May and a Daniel Jones and Kenny Pickett and Trubisky. It's like, what do you? Oh, wait, they went to the Peyton Manning camp. So, obviously, we need to draft them because they went to the Peyton Manning camp. Okay. Anything else with football? So again, the lines: Buffalo 8.5, 47.5, Philly 5, 45.5, Tampa Bay 3 and 50, and Minnesota 2.5, 47.5. In Arizona, weather's fine on these games. LA's in a dome. Tampa's pretty. It's in the 50s and not much there. Buffalo, it's in the 30s and sunny, and Philly's in the 30s and sunny. So we're not really getting really cold weather or snow this weekend. So the weather is not a factor. As far as I know, Hurts is playing. Love's playing injured. Gets injured a lot, doesn't he? You're betting the Philly defense in Barkley. You're betting on Buffalo at home. It's a very even game, I think. Daniels against Baker, a lot of points, and Minnesota, the Rams. I don't know what you're betting on there. Darnold is terrible. Minnie's got a pretty good defense. The Rams, not a good defense, and they're not at home. So Rams are really getting screwed here in a game they should at least have home field advantage on. They don't. So that's football today. Now let's go to the fun part. All right. In my title, what do I say? I talk about the problem with inflation. So I want to discuss this because this is a big problem. People think inflation is prices. It's not. It's the dollar having no value because if you print the dollar, if you print too many dollars, you lose value on the dollars. It's got nothing to do with prices. The idea is it takes more dollars to buy a Coca-Cola or a piece of gold or a t-shirt or something. But that's not really true. Yes, the dollar is weaker, but it doesn't mean the price necessarily has gone up because the price can't always go up. As I sit there and talk about Coke and Pepsi, you go to the grocery store, Coke's $2.95, Pepsi's $2.95 for a 2-liter. But why aren't they $10? Because if Coke raised it to 10 and Pepsi didn't, Coke is out of business because everybody would buy Pepsi because it's a better price. So it's a price sensitive market, which means you can't always raise it, and that way you can't measure inflation against it. My other thing is the Toyota Camry. When I get my oil changed at the Toyota dealership, the guy had it at 35,000. He says, I can't sell it. I says, because your market is 25. You can only sell things at market. You can't just raise prices because of inflation. Yes, the dollar is worth less, but you can't, it doesn't work that way. When you see high inflation and like you get in Venezuela or Greece or Sri Lanka or Zimbabwe, it's because it's A, compared to the dollar, and B, it's compared It's price fixing by the government. So Venezuela dictates the price you can sell it for. Well, if it costs me more to make it, I'm not going to make it anymore. I'll sell it to America, but I won't sell it in Venezuela. So you can't really use prices. And then that's why you see the shelves empty, is because you cannot do price controls because they never work. It's impossible for them to work because only the market can set the price, not the government. And so when you have empty shelves or when prices go up, it's mostly, pardon me, when prices go up, it's mostly because of now there's two reasons. One, prices go up because of competition and or lack of competition, right? And it's mostly demand. So there's two types of price going up. One is demand. Everybody wants Canadian Club, everybody wants the Mantle card, and that forces the price up, like what's happening in gold now. Gold's going up because of the demand for gold. Then there's the second where the inflation is making the dollar worth less, so the prices go up because the dollar isn't worth anything and it needs to. But as I showed you with Toyota at $35,000 for a Camry, if the market doesn't accept the price increase doesn't last, and that's the problem. The market, on the other hand, with gold is going, this is ridiculous. It's so undervalued, and people buy it because they know it's worth more. And it's because of the derivatives on JP Morgan keeping the price down. They realize, well, wait a minute, this price is way low. The demand's too high. BRICS, everybody buying, central bank, digital gold, and all that, or central bank buying gold to compete to get into BRICS. So, and they're all getting out of the dollar because they know it's worthless. So when you have the dollar worth nothing, it's not necessarily prices. Well, what do you see? Oh, this country A sees inflation coming down. Translation: the prices are for the goods are coming down, so we think it's inflation. It's not. It's the market saying, I don't have any more money. I need it all for food and energy and my rent and my clothes. I don't have anything left to buy, cookies and ice cream or to go buy more wants than needs. So the prices drop on certain items does not mean inflation's coming down, but they'll want you to think that. And they're all generic. So when they say prices are coming down, inflation's coming down because prices are coming down, that's absolutely wrong. Inflation is only because you've printed the money. You've reduced the value of the money. You've flooded the market with dollars. That's what it is. You cannot measure that with prices. It's as alligator. I can't think of the word I wanted to use. Pisses us off with his stupid analysis of, well, it's the dollar. It's not gold going up. It's the dollar going down. He's a fucking idiot. It is the gold going up because of the demand for gold. If there was no demand for gold and gold was going up, then I would say, yeah, it takes more dollars to buy it because the dollar's worth less. The dollar's gone 99%. It isn't going down anymore. There's nowhere to go for it. So why is gold going up now when it can't be the dollar losing any more value? And then you add that, why does gold go down if the dollar is never getting stronger because they printed 160 trillion of it? So the dollar is never stronger. Until you back it by gold, it'll never be stronger. So inflation's never coming down. There's no such thing as deflation. Deflation, what they'll tell you is prices coming down. Well, no, it's the market. I don't want to pay $3 for Coke, so I don't buy it. And then they lower the price to $2. Is that deflation? Well, what is deflation? Really, prices going down is the market. There's no, it's not an economic term. Deflation. It's it's a Keynesian term, but it's not. We don't use it in Austrian economics. It's not If Coke goes down to $1, it's the market not buying it at 3. It's not inflation coming down. Inflation doesn't come down unless you back it by gold. So the problem is all these countries think, oh, inflation's going down because prices are coming down. And it's 100% wrong. Inflation can only go down if you burn the money or you back the money by gold. You have to have less money for the inflation to go down. And it certainly can't be measured by percentage because there's so many prices on so many goods that you can never measure it. The way the US does it, we just throw out food and energy. We won't count those. Well, how the fuck do you get an inflation figure if you're not counting that kind of stuff? You either got to count all the prices, but even that, in certain markets, you can't raise prices depending on the good, if it's a want versus a need. So I need to eat, but I don't need to go golfing. So maybe the golfing has gone down because there's no demand. There's no need to golf. And then that makes, but on chocolate chip cookies, they charge a little bit more, but you might not need those either. I don't know, whatever, milk and bread, I guess, and you watch the prices. But that's the point. Prices can only go. Prices are really driven by the market, right? Is there demand, i.e., gold and silver? If there is demand, the prices go up because of the demand. Scenario 2, the inflation makes the dollars worth less, so you try to raise the prices, and if and only if the market agrees to it, can you do it? Obviously not with the Camry, and obviously not with my rib guy. Again, at the barbecue place, do not raise your ribs to $45 a slab. You will be out of business. He's kept them at $29.30. He actually listened to me. And that's the only way he can do it. He's got to go with what the market says, even though the prices maybe went up. So what he's doing is he's not including the napkins, the wet naps after you have the barbecue. You want to wash your hands. And certain other items, he's not carrying it. So he's cutting costs to keep the ribs at $28, $30 a slab. And that's really it. So again, all prices do not go up because of inflation, only if the market will allow it. And in the Camry, they wouldn't. And a lot of things they won't. And again, the hedge against it is gold. So I'm tired of these, watching on Bloomberg, and they go, oh, inflation's coming down. It's down to 2%. And based on what? What prices? First of all, you can't look at prices to measure inflation. And where are you getting 2%? You're not including are you including a price of a house and a car? No. So then who gives a fuck? None of those figures are real, so don't look at them as real. Unless you back your money by gold, you cannot beat inflation. That is the only way. You cannot. And I love the other one. The cure for high prices is high prices. What the fuck does that mean? How does that cure high prices? So Coke is $10 a bottle. So the cure for it is to make Pepsi $10 a bottle. And how does that cure high prices? Whoever that Rickards guy, what a fucking idiot he is. Oh my God. And this other guy with the baseball cards, I'm ready to shoot him already. He keeps saying, well, what are you going to do, buy baseball? Yeah, if you get PSA 10 manos, you're a rich guy. You can retire. So again, people don't know what they're talking about. They're morons, basically. So I wanted to clear that up. Prices are not any measure of inflation. If they go down, inflation is not coming down. If they go up, inflation's not going up. It depends. Is it based on demand? Like gold. Gold is not the money going down. It is the demand for gold is causing the price to go up. Why does COMEX go up? All they say, because everybody's taking delivery. Well, that means demand is driving the price up. Because if there was no demand, the price would have fallen, and yet the price doesn't fall. We're still at 26. We're at 26.80, I think. So they don't really fully understand what they're talking about, especially Alligator. Egon gets it more, but again, you've got to understand economics to understand the markets, which they don't. They're not economists. They're they're stockbrokers or bankers. They have no clue about economics or what a price is, what inflation is. They don't really know. They know inflation will ruin the value of the dollar. It'll go out, and the hedge is gold because you can't inflate. But they never say that either. They never get the gold's been a money for 5,000 years. They never understand why, because you can't print it. And then the money goes out because they print the money too much and they give away social. It's all socialism where we'll give you money for, retirement and this and that. And, healthcare and school. We'll just pay for it all. No, the market has to pay for it all. You get it in the market. That's how everything gets paid for. So prices have nothing to do with inflation. It's an indirect way of measuring the value of the dollar that's dropped. Supposedly, you take more dollars to buy it. That is exactly what inflation is. However, the market dictates if you can raise prices or not. And you can't make the Camry 35,000 and sell any, even though there's inflation, that won't do it because there's no demand. Prices can only go up if there's demand for the item. I want to buy these golf clubs. I want to buy a Canadian club. I want to buy a mantle card, gold. The prices of these items go up because of the demand for the price for the item, not because the dollar's worth less. Yes, it takes more dollars to buy things, but if the market will not bear it, it doesn't matter. So Coke should be $10 a bottle now with all the inflation because it went up to $2.95, but they haven't raised it since. Because the market says I'm not paying $2.95 for Coke. First of all, it's got sugar in it, so it's going to kill you. But secondly, I'm not going to pay $2.95. So they go to the Fagos and the 7-Ups or whatever that's $1 cheaper. They buy that because they don't care. All right. So I wanted to clear that up because that is a very bad misconception that leads countries to think inflation's coming down when it isn't. It can't. It can only come down if you stop printing the money or you back the money by gold. So if you keep printing, you got 160 trillion US dollars. Guess what? You haven't. The inflation can never go down. There's nothing you can do except back it by gold. Otherwise, you cannot. You cannot lower the inflation. The money is printed, which makes the money worthless. Does gold go up because the money is worthless? Absolutely not. Should it go up? Yeah, in a free market, it would go up. Only because of demand, not because it's gold. Not because the dollar's losing its value. Does not drive prices up. Certain things that were like electricity or things that you don't have a choice in, then it goes up. Gold price is not going up because of inflation. It's going up because the market demands it. And also, it's a double hitter because people realize that you keep printing the dollar, it goes out. That is what inflation is. So people are then demanding gold and silver because they realize the dollar's worthless and they got to get out of it before they're sitting on 100 grand of worthless toilet paper. So that demand for the gold because of the dollar going out creates the higher gold price. If no demand, the price doesn't go up. And then JP Morgan and sitting there, and I guess Goldman Sachs are doing derivatives for the Federal Reserve to try to keep the price down. That's what they're doing. So they're trying to keep the price of gold down. I have no idea why. Bitcoin's 100,000. Well, actually, it dropped to 92,000. So therefore, you can't. That's not keeping me out of dollars. If I had gold, I'd still be in dollars because I need dollars to get paid for my job and to go buy gold and to buy grocery stores and pay for my rent and clothes and stuff like that. I still need dollars for that. So if gold's $2 or 20,000, it doesn't matter. I still need the dollar for that. Why should if a Montana rookie goes for 100 grand? Does that why can that go to 100 grand and Rolex can be 100 grand, but gold can't? It makes no sense. Really, I don't know. These people in charge are a bunch of fucking idiots. So you have to come to that realization that you got idiots in charge of our money and George Soros running our country. And that's what you gotta that's what you gotta realize. And you got to be careful with it. So it's demand for gold because it's got nothing to do with inflation, except for it does create. So the inflation doesn't create the price of gold to go up. It's people realizing, like the banks realizing the inflation is the dollars. It's losing its value very rapidly. It's not worth anything. So where do I go? And I've taught you many times that we go to the lifeboat, which is gold and silver. So we're buying gold and silver because the dollar's worthless, which is the inflation creating the demand to buy the gold and silver. Um, but that does not make the price go up. It's the demand that makes the price go up, not the inflation. If you had no demand, I mean, we've had bad inflation and it doesn't go up. So again, it's the government trying to keep it down because the Ponzi scheme bankers want you in the stock market, and that's really the problem. Uh, Keeping you in the stock market and in the banks so they can control your money is the goal of the government. Everybody gets poor like in 2008, and it's going to be a joke 2008 compared to what's going to happen very soon here. A lot of people are going to go broke. Well, I had 4 million in my 401k. Yeah, but not anymore. So again, I don't get the government's role of trying to shoot their own people. Really? Well, I guess if George Soros is running it, he's not an American, he's Hungarian, but they won't let him in their country. So um, anyway, so without demand creates the prices to go up and down. If you have demand, the price goes up. If you don't have demand, the price goes down. The fact that money is worthless really doesn't affect price. Sorry, it doesn't. The house only is worth 500 grand if somebody will pay for it. How many times do we hear that? I've heard that a lot. Oh, you got the Mahomes card. No, it's not worth anything unless somebody will buy it. Well, how about the inflation? Wouldn't that make the price of this card go up? Absolutely not. And then people run out of dollars because they don't buy as much. So really, it's the utilities. It's the things that you can't substitute or there's no competition for that go up. Heating, the electric bill, those go up because there's nowhere else to go. But the food goes up a little, but the key is just substituting it. Don't get X, get Y. Like, New York strip, $20 a pound. There's a T-bone for 13. I'll buy the T-bone. You still get the steak, but you're not going to pay 20 for a New York strip. And if nobody pays 20, the price comes down. It's like Coke. It ends up being buy 2 bottles and you get one free, or you get them at half off or so. I do that a lot with my dark chocolate. I'll buy 2. 1 is the normal price, 2 is the half price. So when you figure out you're getting a dollar off of the price, but I'm going to buy it anyway. But that's really what you have. It's all based on demand. That's how a market's based if it's a free market. If the government wants to set prices, we're all fucked because only the market can do that. Only me and you can say, this is how much you can charge for a Camry or ribs or cupcakes. Not the government cannot set the price for any of those. All right. So watching Mark McGuire. I find I keep falling asleep listening to him because he's so monotone. He has no emotion, and and then he starts talking, get to the point, and put it in English, and he's got a hard time doing that. So I've watched this about 3 times. I was just watching it earlier. So there's a couple of key points that I want to get to, and then we'll get to silver that he talks about. Basically, what he's talking about is Comex. His title is Rest in Peace, Comex. Now, the reason it's Rest in Peace is The derivatives only work if you have the physical that you can control 4% of the contract with physical and the other 96 is paper. They're flooding the market with paper gold. That's why the gold price doesn't go up. That's why I tell you to buy the shit out of it, because we're going to get a physical price thanks to our friends at Bricks who are buying physical gold, which will force the price up based on demand, not inflation. The inflation, because the dollar's worthless, people are going, well, the only lifeboat is gold. So they're buying the gold and the silver. But this is all based on demand. So if what they're doing is they're running out of gold to do the 4% with, because Russia and China and India are so active buying gold that there's not any gold left. Very little gold left. So when they try to do the 4%, they have to actually have the gold to do the 4%, which they don't have it. It's just about gone. So therefore, the US can't keep doing the derivatives because they don't have gold to do it with. And when they're called, when Russia says, I want the gold at this price, they don't have it. And so, okay, goodbye. There's the door, because you can only play if you have physical gold. So it's like me in the casino. If I don't have money, I can't play poker. I can only play poker if I actually have money to sit down and I get to buy the chips. So keep that in mind, that that's what they're going to do, is because they don't have the gold, it will blow up. And the same with silver. Silver is apparently in a 4-year hole where people are asking for delivery and they're not paying, they're not giving them delivery, which they legally have to do. But since they run the country, there is no laws for these bank guys. These bank guys are all criminals. Most of them are mafia, and they're the ones setting the rules. So they're the ones that they don't enforce the law against these guys. Just like Madoff. JP Morgan ran the account, the 703 account or whatever it was, with Madoff. And they saw $2, 3, 5, $10 billion in it. And they were supposed to ask about it. They never did, because they were getting a chunk of it. And so was the SEC. They were in on the Ponzi scheme. So you think you have it covered, but what you learn is you don't trust banks. You don't trust government. They're not. It's all paid off. It's all corrupt. So when the lobbyists go and they go, well, we want to have a war, and we want to make Tomahawk missiles and airplanes. This is what we want. That's what they do, because they pay the government to do what they want instead of what they're elected to do. The whole idea of a government is absolutely, it's supposed to be for the people. We elect you. This is what we want to run the country. You're trying to run the country. Well, you'd be better off without a government. I think we don't need a leader because we don't have one. I'm not going to trust Trump. I certainly didn't trust Biden or Obama or any of these morons. They're all idiots. They're all salesmen, and they all get elected, and then they take all these bribes and they do what they want. Oh, you gave me $1 million. What did you want me to do? Oh, sure, yeah, because you gave me $1 million. So the lobbyists are really running the government, and the banks are the lobbyists. So the banks are actually running the government in what's good for them, not what's good for us. So what's the point of the government? And are you going to follow? Why would I follow anything these idiots say? But I know they're full of shit, right? You guys don't know that until I tell you. You don't understand. Oh, I can't believe they didn't do Madoff. And why did the SEC not find anything? Because they were paid not to find anything. And JP Morgan was in on it. And so was the Russian mafia. They were all in on it. So you're all getting fucked. Now, this bailout of these people that made money on it, had to give it back to give to the losers, is an absolute joke. That should never have happened. Are you kidding me? That should never have happened. I wouldn't. It's like winning a football game. What do you mean I got to pay it back? Well, Joe lost. Well, that's Joe's problem. I bet I won. It's my money. I can't, what do you mean take it away? Although that's what they do when we go to work or hit the lottery or you win money. The government's there with their hand out. Hey, I want to, we're going to tax you. We're partners. I don't want to be your partner. I didn't sign up to be your partner. Um, Fortunately, when you go to the casino, unless you hit a slot machine, you don't get 1099. You win at poker or blackjack, baccarat, you're not paying a nickel. Football, you're not paying a nickel. I won that one time. I won like $5,000 betting on all those football games. I didn't pay 1099. I made sure I went to the window 3 times, but they do not 1099 you on that. Only if there's a slot, you hit the slot machine, it says 10 grand, and they're gonna 1099 you on that. Hey G, happy New Year to you. Good luck today. Yes, you too. I hope you're healthy and everything. So we talked football already, G, and now we're just talking economics. But if you have a question, please go right ahead. Um, so I gotta keep in mind what's really going on, right? George Soros probably runs the banks. He's got a lot of money to win. Biden gives him a medal of what? Being a great citizen when he goes and murders all these people. Biden, I don't know why he's still in office. Daria goes, like, Trump wins the election. She thought he'd be in the next day because that's how it works in Russia. No, it doesn't. I said, well, he doesn't come in till January 20th. She's like, why? What are we waiting for? And then Biden can do all this bullshit, pardon all these people and give these medals to all these people that don't deserve it. Hillary Clinton, why didn't he give a medal to himself or his son for being a drug dealer? That's what you get from it. But anyway, how Russian banks work. Uh, you get you get the FX rate of the bank. So if I give Daria $100, the Google FX rate might be 110, but the bank says 98, and that's the bank doesn't use the Google wherever that is FX rate. So the 110 is not recognized in Russia. They have their own. It's 97. Now the rate went from 110 down to 101, and guess what? The Russian bank went from 96 to 97 to 98. So it is not even looking at the bullshit FX rate. So when we say it's 105 to the ruble, the Russian bank's like, no, we're going to give you 98. But when it goes down from 110 to 100, it's not like it goes down $10. It goes up. It went from 97 to 98, even though in the market it went from 110 to 101. So I'm wondering how the FX is even figured. Probably more bullshit, not done by the markets, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, so when I give her $100, she gets 98. She gets 98 per dollar. She gets $9,800. She gets 9,800 rubles for 100. Even though I think she's getting 105 because that's what the FX rate is. She's getting 9,800. I said, "Oh, good. I don't have to give you as much for rent. Take the money and buy food." She says, "No, it's not. And now I understand. It's the bank charging versus what the FX is and whatever market it's at. I don't know because if you go on Google and you go FX rates, it gives you to the euro and you can switch countries. So that's what I do." Luke says there's something. We got gold from the Vatican. I can't find anything on YouTube, on Google. There's nothing I see that we've got gold in the Vatican or from the Vatican. Nothing. So I don't know where he's getting that from. You come to the class, you got to come hard with actual details. All right, Mark McGuire. So he's going to explain why COMEX is blowing up.
has actually been coattailing every global central bank, except the Fed, that is, and all these first-tier market-making bullion banks went long physical gold and silver, coattailing the central banks, and they went long for their own books, naturally, because they got a view into the physical markets. So when we look...
So what he's saying by long is that the banks are all buying, thinking the gold price is going up. So even though JP Morgan's running the derivative, the paper, all the banks are buying physical because they know it's too cheap and it's going to go up. So when he says long, the banks think it's going to go up also.
The makeup of what is counterintuitive house insider gold suppression footprints, which we evidenced into the close of the 24-year trade. We're really talking about the three agent bullion banks forced to act on behalf of the Fed, who remain the only global central bank still trying to cap the dollar price of gold. I mean, it's ludicrous, but it's happening under our watch. Now, many of our subscribers' questions during 2024, as you've just elaborated, they sought to understand if the Feds have unlimited pockets, fiat pockets, which they do, so they could really continue to fly. Could they not continue to flywheel this 50-year price suppression scheme, which is what the COMEX was specifically formed to do? Namely, that was after Nixon suspended the dollar's convertibility into gold, into synthetic, so that they could synthetically dilute thousands.
He's off the injured list
to dissuade foreign central banks from swapping their unbacked dollars for physical gold, because they were trying to keep the price. They were trying to keep the price volatile and wrongly positioned. Now, while it's true, that the Fed has virtually unlimited printed dollars to keep the siloed COMEX over 50-year price capping scheme rolling, following Basel III.
Okay, so the question I get asked all the time is, why hasn't gold gone up? Will it ever? It hasn't. Why will it go up now? Right? Because I keep saying buy gold. Why is it going to go up now? And that's what he's getting into. He's saying how it's price fixed, but now he's going to say, well, this is what's changed. Why, after the 50 years, we're actually going to get a real gold price. So run out and buy gold. I wonder if he's told his buddy Jose Canseco about metals. Well, he tells Alligator, Egon already knows about it. But yeah, so anyway, this is what he's getting to, is why it's been held down, JP Morgan and that, and then why will it change? Which is, everybody asks, well, why now is the price going to go up and they're not going to have price fixing? So here's the answer.
Recategorizing physical gold as a first-tier asset class on the 1st of January 2 years ago, almost 2 years to the day, it forced the 10 times larger global-facing foreign exchange markets to back the 17 trillion a year foreign exchange gold offerings with bullion, thereby limiting the house's ability to keep fractionalizing what is a rapidly depleting stock of house leverage bullion bars.
So in English, Basel III comes out 2 years ago, and they have to have the physical gold. No more only paper. That's the difference. So you must have physical to do the contracts. And since it's all running out, because BRICS, Russia, China have most of it, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs don't have the gold to play the game, and they can't play the game. It's like playing baseball without baseball bats. I'm up here to hit. Well, you got to get a bat. Well, we don't have any. So that's the point. It's because of Basel III, which he said 2 years ago, forces you to have gold, and then when they want to take delivery of it, you have to give them delivery. That's the change. And so as they're running out of gold, they can't play anymore, and then these derivatives to keep the price down will go away, and then everything goes to a physical market, which we can't wait for, because we know this price has been held down by the paper, and basically they're flooding the market with paper gold. That's why I tell you to buy physical. Don't buy ETFs, don't buy stocks. You must buy the coins or the bars, mostly the coins, and get the coins. And silver too, but you have to have the physical, because that's where the price is going to be, in a physical price, not an ETF. That's just a Ponzi scheme. Then you're being made off. Do not buy ETFs thinking you own physical gold, because you don't, and you'll never get it. All right.
Now, despite gold rising by over $600 per ounce, despite their best efforts to dilute the gold price against a rising dollar, all that happened was the Fed revealed its weak poker hand. But following this over 50 year legacy gold price suppression, they are so deep in, they had little option but to double down. And the problem is that outside the siloed casino bubble, every other central bank is capitalizing on this bluff, busted hand, which is, in poker terms, what it is. Now, the Fed is rapidly running out of the necessary bullion that they rely on to dilute the paper price of gold. Now, despite the ability to leverage their undeliverable casino chips by a massive 96%, it beggars belief, but that is what you're seeing. Anytime you see a trade on the COMEX, it is only 4% backed by any bullion. So what they're doing is despite this ability to leverage to that degree, which is about hiding the fact that the debt-praised dollar is actually losing purchasing power, as benchmarked by unleveraged first-tier gold, FX gold, that is. So the rubber actually meets the road at global gold fixes, which actually sets the dollar price of billions of dollars of accrued Fed-held derivative bets. And that's what really this is about. It's not just what's being traded on the COMEX. There are massive derivative bets, which these prices are trying to protect. Now, ultimately, the Fed's agent bank losses are insured by the Fed, but as the rising gold price illustrates, this is a losing battle, which will have to be resolved by paying ever higher prices to balance the paper to physical book.
Hey, Andrew, can you share insights on how the physical gold versus the paper gold casino markets are performing, and where do you see the discrepancies here?
Yes, Shane, good question. Now, the stripped down charts is really the best way to reveal the degree that the Fed is losing the paper to physical battle. This is why we track actually the 96% leveraged COMEX footprints. You know, obviously we track the spot markets because they are where the physical markets settle. But in order to really see what the game is, we have to actually track that the Fed, these contracts, these COMEX contracts, albeit leveraged. So let's pick up the thread.
Now, we've been tracking these Fed footprints all last year, revealing the massive losses they faced after borrowing physical bullion from the Bank of International Settlements to leverage and sell this bullion at market to try and bolster depleting COMEX reserves. But as we can see, every single effort from March onwards to dilute the gold price during 2024 backfired, forcing them to repeatedly buy back this sold bullion at ever higher prices. Now, I have to go scroll back a little bit to see where this first really notably started. Now, after getting wrong-footed by the PBOC on the 1st of March, which was this blue circled inflection point here, when they opened up, the PBOC opened up the Shanghai Futures Exchange gold trading facility, mistakenly, the Fed began to double down, and here at this point, they had accrued 68 tons of physical gold loans. And what they were trying to do was fractionalize this into around, if you leverage that out, that would have been 2 years. That is 2 years of synthetic global mine supply. And they were doing that at spot $2,000. Now we're tracking the futures charts here because it's easier to track the Fed footprints because this is where they operate. However, as we drill down into our last episodes all last year, by the end of August, this was right here, so right at the end of August, we can see that the Bank of International Settlements along the way had actually been increasing their borrowings from the Bank of International Settlements. And by the end of August, they had literally borrowed, they'd added another 89 tons, and that was peaking at 157 tons. But this was $500 higher at around 2,500. Now, given the 96% leverage, they had found themselves on the wrong side of really close to 5 years. If you leverage that out, that is close to 5 years of mine supply. And by the end of September, and that was here, and remember, we tracked all of this last year. By the end of September, they were forced to actually unwind and pay back 64 tons at close to $2,750. Now, these are massive losses. And while the House was able to lay off, and this is where we are currently today, and while the House was able to lay off probably about 50% of these liabilities against the specs inside the cash settled COMEX, into the process, liquidity providers assessed that around 1 year of mine supply had been removed and alchemized by way of unreported monetary gold outflows. What we're trying to do here is demonstrate the Fed has a weak hand.
Andrew, from what we were discussing ahead of the episode here, you're looking for much higher prices in 2025. Can you step us through this, please?
Yes, Shane. What we're seeking to do here in these educational sessions is to really track where the footprints lead into 2025. And as we've evidenced through the first couple of trading sessions, the wrong at both ends momentums, yes, they're right in the middle, but they're always wrong at both ends. Now we're witnessing them wrong at the bottom end. These guys, as we say, control 75% of all the COMEX chips, the open interest, as they call it, which the Fed relies on to back. They basically rely on creating these unbacked chips, loan them out, wrong foot the specs, and then short cover it into them. But this supply is actually dwindling, and this is a problem. Exposed to growing delivery obligations being jumped on into multiple bid pull sessions, and this is, instead of shorting, they're just resorting to bid pulling. And when you have a position concentration, you can do that kind of thing. But again, we're talking about open interest starting to dwindle, and it used to work extremely well. In fact, liquidity providers report commercials buying to hedge strong Asian-driven physical exposure. In fact, really nothing's changed. It actually is far too obvious. Asia buys physical and the West follows by selling paper gold. It does encourage momentums to anticipate this behavior and short sell, and we've seen that on every single pit open session this year so far, but they don't realize they're being set up as patsies. Now, notably, at the New Year Open, gold and silver rose alongside the dollar as it tested its highest level since November 2022, while conversely, liquidity providers report a notable move to exchange strong dollars and US treasuries for physical gold. Now, assisted by this week's obligatory anticipated FOMC meeting. Now, we're recording this on Wednesday, and basically the FOMC is yet to play out this afternoon, this evening at our time. And then, of course, ahead of really the key thing is Friday non-farm payroll uncertainty. These wrong at both ends momentums are still being tricked into capping rises, while liquidity providers with a view into the wholesale markets expect the bullish physically driven change in behavior to continue to actually percolate through into the first quarter of this year. So really, to answer more specifically the question, Shane, let's look at what to expect medium term. So in order to do that, let's look at the real supply-demand dynamics that we are evidencing out of China, as it actually provides a really good look under the contaminated smoke and mirrors Western market view.
So this to explain, and really what we're trying to do is explain how this 50-year-old game is starting to expire. So these are facts. As per the PBOC, into November's synthetically gamed Western-driven gold discount, where everyone was wringing their hands saying, oh my goodness, we're going to now drop down to 2,300, 2,200, even 2,000. We had all these calls coming out. And in fact, so this was really following the all-time, now this was, we're tracking the futures chart. So this 2801.70 February futures contract high equated to 2,790 spot. So that was the all-time high. And then it was tracked all the way down into the December spot
Pedro.
low, and that was at 2602, which included really a round trip $260 paper market flush during this so-called 1 month, and this was all the way to here. Then obviously then we saw this settlement again, the Bank of International Settlements scrambling to cover. But into this so-called market weakness, China's official gold reserves rose, and this is where the report came through, right where the BIS closed. Their official gold reserves rose from 72.96 million ounces to 73.29 million ounces at the end of December. So here, all the way to here. So they were capitalizing on every single possible ounce. So into this 1 month period between the end of November and the end of December, which was right here, what the PBOC did was, in fact, purchase over 11 tons. Now, keep in mind, this was the period the mainstream media was spinning that China was no longer buying gold. And we now have advanced information. They've significantly stepped this up ahead of Trump's inauguration this month.
With that in mind, let's connect the dots. Now, notably, and why the mainstream media were on the bandwagon spinning bearish gold comments, and it was due to actually based on the fact that actually the CNY currency, our currency was weakening relative to the strong dollar. Now, the dollar value of the PBOC's gold reserves actually fell by 2.10 billion into these official additions that we've just outlined. Strong additions, 11 tons of them. Verifying the footprints our liquidity providers were reporting into the so-called gold price weakness in December, weakness in the paper markets, not in the physical markets. The PBOC was and is actively capitalizing on dollar strength, stealthily selling dollar assets for gold by way of locking in synthetically discounted Western gold at both the AM and the PM fixes for a guaranteed T+1 physical delivery. Remember, we talked about T+1. It simply means that since Basel III NSFR compliance regulations kicked in, that if you're an FX trader and you're trading gold, have to have the physical to deliver. So if someone asks for it, you've got to deliver it. It's got to be delivered within 1 day of that transaction. So basically, So they're guaranteed this physical delivery. So alongside selling US treasuries to purchase gold, which is the polar inverse of what the Fed is doing, trying to flog their US treasuries. But as we know, these official published 11-odd ton additions do not include unreported large tonnage, LBMA, 400-ounce monetary gold purchases flowing out of the West into the East to fulfill a race by global central banks to capitalize on current dollar strength to purchase gold. Now, the officially reported data is just what cannot be hidden, but only partly illustrates the PBOC stepping up to swap dollars for gold ahead of tariffs being imposed. Now, by connecting these three dots, which we're outlining here, trying to bring this all together, it's no coincidence that China's official FX reserves fell in December from 3.26 trillion to 3.202 trillion. That's what it was, into the gold sell-off. So suddenly we see also their reserves dropping. Now, these conversions of dollars for gold are what is officially reported, but what is hidden from view and impossible to track, but empirically evident and hidden in plain sight, is the scale of the 3.4 trillion of shadow banking reserves identified by ex-Treasury Secretary Brad Setzer. These are off the record being alchemized into hundreds of tons of physical gold.
So what pisses me off is when these idiots just look at central bank gold. What a shadow bank is, it's like Chase or something, or JP Morgan. It's not the Fed. So the Fed won't be buying gold, or, Russia's only got 2,000 tons of gold, but all the shadow banks have another 20,000 tons, which they never talk about. Anyway, so let's go to another segment. He doesn't like, basically it ends up where gold will be at least $3,000, silver 50, but probably higher. Let's go up to here. All right, he's going to talk about silver.
And the increasingly liquid physical exchanges in China, Asia, and the South, global South.
At face value, this is how the uninterrupted, over 50-year synthetic COMEX-driven price suppression game worked. In fact, as we evidenced to the CFTC and the Department of Justice in our whistleblower evidence, attested to by Commissioner Bart Chilton in this Russian television clip, which is linked here below. This position concentration allowed these house insiders to mark massive options and derivative positions. I mean, billions of them. We're talking hundreds of dollars below fair value, greatly enriching these house insiders while enabling the Fed to manage the dollar price of gold.
So, back to where we are now as this February contract runs into expiry in 3 weeks. With physical support at spot 2600, here, the House was forced to buy the February 2600 strike with a plan to continue to arbitrage the rapidly contracting remaining February spot contango, which will ultimately be at par at the February contract expiry, which is going to be at the end of this month on January the 30th, meaning that the February 2600 futures level was the deepest available discount the House could possibly lay off on the wrong at both ends momentum-driven sellers. Now, this way, officials have been able to hedge central bank-driven T+1 delivery exposure at the spot 2600 round number, which is deliverable. Now, this is backed up in the House-run February gold option structure, which actually evidences very strong commercial support by these same banks between 2600 and 2680. This means that regardless of the expected short covering gap close rally, which we would expect way above 2,750 probably, the minimum of closing this gap here, I'm just talking about the short term here, commercials have been setting themselves up to be first to ring the register, which they've begun to do, on very large naked short momentum stop layers on the way back up. This process has begun, but it will significantly pick up next week after non-farm payroll volatility settles, which will happen today when this episode is released.
So to sum up, the futures contango premium will now rapidly contract to zero, and given the paper to physical imbalance, likely moved into severe backwardation, forcing insiders to defend this spot-related support as this process picks up into better liquidity after non-farm payrolls on Friday. So in other words, picks up next week after non-farm payrolls. And really, I think we may as well just wait, bide your time until this volatility may offer some great opportunities. Now, bottom line, just as our first-year liquidity providers had assessed, the scope of these COMEX-centric discounted settlements were constrained to how much asymmetrically imbalanced 96% leveraged COMEX open interest could be covered off against concurrent real market T+1 NSFR-compliant physical delivery obligations facing the market-making banks. Now, when the February gold to spot spreads fall off a cliff during the last 2 weeks of January, it's going to expose the commercials to upcoming T+1 delivery obligations, and it'll force them to short cover, which is what they will not be able to offset against the momentum-driven 96% leverage short speculators. Now, this is going to bullishly influence deeply oversold silver futures.
All right, Andrew, and for my favorite question, almost every episode I'm asking you right here, what are you seeing in silver moving forward?
In silver, we've evidenced exactly the same house position concentrated strategy to cap silver by fractionalizing the March silver contract, where bets were made against March futures contract at $29. Now, at the contract's inception point on the 29th of July, with spot silver at $27.50, the contango, to lock it in, there was a massive $1.37. That is $6,850 per contract premium. And you can see that in the corner of this illustration. And that was just to cap the futures price at $29. Now, think about it. When accounting for the locked-in $1,370 containment profit, so as long as silver didn't rise above 29 at contract expiry, that is, because they are stick-handling undeliverable, unallocated foreign exchange silver positions being called for by Asian buyers into supply deficits, these house insiders were forced to go long to hedge this exposure at $29, hence the COT support there, the commercial support there.
Now, you've just looked at the screenshot where we captured $1.37, that's 6,850 per contract premium, which was being gamed and arbitraged to really just to cap the futures price at $29, and which again would have been the exact support level. The March contract, this is the current live price, so it's currently 64 cents, which is ludicrous when you consider that in fact it was 40 cents really just a couple of days ago, 41 cents. It should be in the 40-cent range, and legitimately probably in the high 38-cent range or thereabouts. So in other words, is still being gamed. Now, it's a thin liquidity day today, so that's expanded to 64 cents. But this is really just bringing up to date what you just looked at and how they've contracted this $1.37, even today at extended levels, to around 60 cents. Now, so what's going to happen is this March contract has got until February the 27th to reach parity with FX spot. And as of today, they still currently have this arbitrable current 60-cent spread cushion, but it will rapidly shrink to zero by February contract expiry. Now, similar to gold futures, these same actors have gone long into deeply oversold conditions. Now, we're looking at the daily chart, going all the way back to 2020. Now, what the liquidity providers are saying is they expect the commercials to be first, obviously, to ring the register on momentums the moment they're selling stalls, because they're wrong at both ends. But they're going to equally benefit from being long against these naked short sellers when they ring the register. Now, liquidity providers also assess the inflection point for the gold and silver is very close to sparking a March 2020 COVID-like short squeeze this first quarter, especially as these same liquidity providers continue to report very large Indian buying is competing with Chinese demand above spot $30. Now, there is so little on offer at current prices, the offer to sell physical silver will have to rise to meet this demand. And when silver breaks out, everyone who has been lulled into believing this synthetic range will continue will pile in together. And while gold, we're looking at
So what you just said there in English is you have a lot of demand in China and a lot of demand in India for silver, and there is no supply. So I want to buy it. Nobody's going to sell it at $30. That's where the price is going to shoot up because they don't have a supply on COMEX. They don't have the physical silver to cover the demand. So I want silver. I don't have any. Well, all right, where can I go? And they go to the silver mines. The silver mines are charging them a lot more. So that's where you see COMEX blowing up. They don't have the gold or the silver to cover now. COMEX is really set up to be price fixing, to set the price of gold and silver, to keep it down because people wanted to take the gold and silver because we're inflating the money. So they're keeping the price down so everybody knows it's not a real price. But now there's huge demand for between solar panels and money, gold, silver is money, that's what they're doing. So the demand will force the price higher, will force COMEX to get out because we need the silver, right? We need it. We got to buy it and it will bypass you. And then if we bypass you, then there's no need for you. That's kind of where they're at. So
a 240 chart, a 4-hour chart here. And again, if you compare that with silver, it's sideways. It's this huge capping level. But again, why did they cover at 29? Is because they don't want it below 29. So again, this is then because there is a physical market that's starting to absorb this stuff. So these same actors in silver futures are running out of sufficient momentum sellers to effectively cap the real supply-demand price of silver. It will break out. And just a quick look at the monthly charts, and really no damage done. And while we saw this end of December gaming, guess who the buyers were? The same commercials exposed to physical deliveries. And here is the 50% retracement FIBO. That's really triggered, and the fact that this held will have spooked the momentums who really ought to start thinking about covering pretty soon. Look at the same thing in much harder to hide gold, and most certainly we're looking at a $3,000 price.
there you go.
This really demonstrates what gold did in 2024, closing right here.
So pulling at the synthetic gold and silver action, putting it all together. So driven by central bank, sovereign, and institutional safe haven physical demand, gold and silver made significant gains in 2024, with gold and silver prices increasingly being discovered in fully physically backed BRICS-facing exchanges. And this physical demand will continue to accelerate in 2025. Now, while gold benefited from its monetary role as an investment metal, as has silver attracted similar safe haven demand, though, silver's also gained from the increasing demand for its climate-friendly applications. And we're looking at EV battery advancements, photovoltaics, and etc. There's a ton of it, but it also has been attracting safe haven demand, which is why sometimes seeing silver counterintuitively rising alongside the dollar. Now, it is tightness in physical supply at current prices, that will force gold and silver to break out. And under the smoke and mirrors COMEX-driven action is what we're looking at through the physical markets. It's through that lens that is providing us a far more bullish outlook than is being spun by Western-facing analysts. Now, what's not being factored in to current gold and silver price forecasts is both gold and silver are increasingly breaking free of their inverse dollar and bond correlations. So rising bond yields resulting from impossible to justify rising debt levels into a wrong-footed Fed, and I'm surprised there hasn't been a buyer strike yet, and the unknown effect of Trump's upcoming tariffs, again, uncertainty, they're accelerating these dislocations as safe haven demand is these US treasuries and dollars are being converted into gold. Yet the old guard Western-facing analysts, relying on historical correlations to keep on going regardless, blinkered to what's going on, see rising bond yields and a rising dollar as limiting gold's upside, because none of them have a view into where real physical prices are being discovered. And if they do, they're deliberately trying to spin it down. For example, while still bullish on gold, at the open of January trading, Goldman Sachs pushed out its 3,000 gold price projections for 2025 out to 2026, based solely on synthetic market expectations that a rising dollar and bond yields will cap gold from rising to $3,000 in the short term. However, all our first-tier liquidity providers, and yes, one is a market maker at Goldman Sachs, assess that they are forced to unwind the forced unwind of dwindling COMEX open interest flowing into markets getting physically settled outside the COMEX LBMA machine, which is a bubble, will continue to evidence the dumping of US Treasuries for gold and conversions of the strongest dollar since November 2022. This exacerbates the break in historical inverse correlations. Now, liquidity providers see safe haven gold and silver rising alongside the dollar and bond yields. Obviously, on an intraday basis, you might see that volatility. It might start to, because the momentums will jump on it. But guess who's buying that? The same commercials are exposed, and the bullion markets are exposed to outflows of bullion. So the truth be told, Goldman Sachs are very long both physical gold and silver for their own book, and par for the course, clearly don't like the competition, and will be proved to have also been driving the gold price up to $3,000 by the end of the first quarter. Almost certain, seeing their counterintuitive calls, they usually trade against what they call the Muppets. I've used that term before, on their speculators, on their clients.
Andrew, a question that seems to be popping up a lot.
Okay, enough of Mark McGuire. So basically, it's the market. If there's demand, price goes up. There's no demand, price goes down. There's huge demand for gold and silver, physical. They're playing this game of derivative, paper, gold, and silver, where they only use 4% physical, 96% make-believe toilet paper to try to set the price. People see the price is too low because they see the inflation, they see the money printing, making the dollars worthless. So do you want to hold the monopoly money? Do I want to hold this, which is not worth, for $5 I can buy a pack of gum, maybe, juicy fruit, or do I want to trade this in for physical gold, which can't go down in value because you can't print it and it's about to go through the moon? Which would you rather be in? So when I'm asked how much gold or silver should I have, the answer is get the fuck out of dollars. And it does you no good to be in dollars, which translates into Bitcoin, stocks, bonds, and your money in Chase Manhattan or JP Morgan. You want to be out of paper. All kinds of paper, all those kinds I just mentioned. You want to be out of paper. You want to be in real assets, Rolexes, mantles, and of course, gold and silver. And then if you're in a Rolex, it won't lose value. It'll just switch from dollars to gold. Gold is the king because it's actually money. So you're fine. That's your first choice because they're very limited. So is a Rolex, and so is a very nice graded mantle card, right? They're all very limited, and that's what you want. Something that there's not a lot of, that there's high demand for. High demand for Rolexes, high demand for mantle, Tom Brady's. We're getting into the Mahomes, and then you have the gold and silver, very limited, of which most of it's already gone, right? So if you have 200,000 tons of gold in the world, in coins and bars, and 99% of it's already gone, then if there's any demand at all, the price will go up once we break away from COMEX, which is the whole point of watching Mark McGuire today. Why will COMEX blow up? Because they need the 4% physical to do their derivatives, and they don't have it. In gold or silver, they don't have the physical to run the derivative, and that's why it'll be blowing up. And then we'll get to a real physical market where we get away from the flooding of the paper gold and silver derivatives into a free market. And then it'll be, okay, does anybody want my home? Oh, you do. Oh, okay. Yeah, $1,000. Here you go. And that's what gold and silver should be, but isn't. It should be, I'm going to sell it. What do you buy it for? But that's not what we have on eBay. That's not what we have now. It's somebody saying, oh, I'll sell it to you. You know, we'll make the derivative 2,700. Is that the real price? No, because it's not supply and demand. It's COMEX keeping the price down. So, oh, you mean it's really higher? Yeah. So I can really buy a $20,000 ounce of gold for 2,700. Yeah. Where do I stand in line? Or silver, which is worth probably at least $1,000 for $30. I mean, silver's a joke. Now, the difference is we can buy a lot of silver. I mean, you know, for, well, what is it? $30 an ounce. So I can buy 20 ounces for $600 or a little, maybe $650. So you can get 20 ounces here, 20 ounces there. But what you're not recognizing is gold goes up 100 at a shot and silver goes up 20 cents. So that's discouraging for the silver buyers. But the ones who really know it's not really $30, but 2,000, they do the buying. And like Luke has boxes of it. So as you're buying the silver, you kind of go, it's only $30. How much should I buy it? But believe me, anything's better than holding monopoly, right? You don't want to be in this or this. These are worthless. These are printed to death. And that's why it's inflation, is the printing. You've flooded the market. There's too many dollars, and therefore it has no value. Now, that does not mean, as I will conclude, the prices are not the inflation. The way that you're flooding the market with the dollars, making them worthless, is the inflating, or you're inflating the money supply, which is why it's called inflation in the first place. So because you're flooding the market with the dollars is where the value goes. Now, it should take more dollars to buy things theoretically, but not necessarily. Like I said, so you want to buy a Camry, I bought it for 24,000. Now they're trying to sell it for 35 and nobody's going to pay 35 for it. So they can't raise the price, so therefore you can't measure the inflation of price increases because not only I'm not you're over market, but I need my money elsewhere. I need to pay for food and clothes and gas and all this. I need that. So therefore, because I need my money, because some of the prices have gone up, my utilities, um, fortunately, my rent stayed. Um, but because everything is, uh, I have less, I have the same amount of dollars, but it buys less. And therefore, I can't afford to buy. Like when I go to the grocery store, I buy 5 things. It's $70, $80. It's ridiculous. You know, if you buy meat, I go buy veggies once a week and meat once a week, and it's crazy. So you got to be very careful. So that leaves me less money to buy golf clubs or tennis rackets or go golfing or go on a vacation or all this stuff. I don't have the money to do it because my money is going to food and clothing and stuff. And that's really the key to it. So once you get that, uh, I can't raise prices because I'm still running a business, which means I make something and I sell it. But if I can't necessarily raise prices to sell it. So in my Canadian club, if this cost me $40, I want to sell it for 60. Now my costs went up. I want to sell it for 80, but I can't. There's no buyers. So I still sell it for 60. So inflation looks like it didn't go up because I'm selling it for the same price. Even though my costs went up, the market won't pay more for it. So now it looks like inflation's gone down because I can only sell it for what the market. Actually, the better way is it cost me 40, I sell it for 60. Now the inflation hits. Now I have less money to pay for Canadian Club, and therefore it actually goes from 60 to 55 because I can't sell it at 60 now. I got to sell it at 55. I got buyers. Is that deflation? No, it's the market saying I've got less money to spend on it. Therefore, the price is going down. But it's not deflation. It's the market saying, sorry, I don't have the money, so I can't give you the same, and therefore you got to lower prices. So when houses go down, again, it's not going to be deflation, which is just prices falling. It's going to be you've got it priced in dollars, and it's going to go to zero, and then you're going to price it in gold, and that's where we're headed down the road. Again, I'm 5 steps ahead of the game, so you must understand me. So when I say the dollar's worthless, it's going that way. It isn't quite worthless yet, but it's going that way. It's lost 99% of its value, almost 100%. So that's really what you're looking at is that. So keep that in mind. So when they say inflation's down because prices are down, that's not true. That's absolutely wrong. Inflation is the money supply making the value of the dollar worthless because there's too much money printed. Therefore, they lose its value regardless of prices. And then, yes, it should take you more dollars to buy it, but maybe not because you can't always raise prices if the market won't let you. You can't make the Camry 35,000, even though your costs went up. The market won't do it. So if you go from 35 to 26, that does not mean inflation's gone down. It means the market's saying you can't sell it for that because the market's 25,000 for a Camry and you want to make it 35. I don't give a shit about your inflation. No, I can't buy it. And do I need the Camry now? Well, maybe I do, maybe I don't. If I'm smart, like I was, I bought it in 2018 when it was like 1% interest on the car at 24,000. So I did that on purpose because I knew I could smell what was cooking. I knew what was coming because that's what I do. That's the advantage of having Austrian economics. I can see everything what's going on in the markets, and it's a lot of you have low supply and high demand. All this AI, I think, will end badly because is it something we need or something we want? Does it make anything beneficial? You sure you're going to replace all your workers with robots and AI? And there won't be any glitches. Oh yeah, there's no sick time. Yeah, but there's no. They don't have the ability to analyze or rationalize. So they just go and go. I picked this, and then I grab this out of C22 in the inventory, and I grab it and I put it out there. But what if it's the wrong thing, or somebody they didn't have C22, so they put something in C23 and C22? He can't figure that out because he's a fucking robot. So keep in mind all this AI stuff, and there's absolutely no reason for it. I don't see any benefits to it. You got the Bitcoin where it went up to 105,000. It's now 92. So if you bought it at 100,000, you're now losing 8,000. Oops, it didn't go up. And that's the point of Bitcoin. It is not real. It is not money. It is just an illusion. It's a Ponzi, and it's basically a get rich quick. Whenever it's a get rich quick scheme, get the fuck out of it. Gold is not a get rich quick scheme, and you're getting the physical gold, and it should go up a lot more than obviously than Bitcoin. But Bitcoin, you have two problems with: one, getting it, and then two, getting the money from it. So I'm going to sell it. I'm going to put it into my bank and then try to get it. Good luck on that. So that's what you have. So be careful with that stuff. I know people are just doing get rich quick things. I can make money by doing nothing. That's the mentality of these kids now. They don't want to work for it. It's like me analyzing football. I don't analytics to it and say, oh well, here it is, and do it. No. I'm putting a lot more work into it. All right, let's go watch some football. I'm gonna have some lunch, a little bit more, and then go to the pool. And I got to pick up, I think, salmon for dinner. Now that I ate the General Chow, I'm still hungry. I don't have like the. I need more veggie. I need to eat more salads and omelets. I used to eat an omelet for lunch and a steak and a salad for dinner, and I'd nibble on cauliflower or something. And I'm like, I'd have a lot of dark chocolate. Now I'm fighting like I'm hungry, and it's I'm a little too hungry. Anyway, www.teaserking.com. Football, if you want the rest of the pros, $50. There's still 3 rounds of playoffs. And outside of that, good luck on your games today, whoever you took. Again, I had the over in the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, which Baltimore's defense isn't good. Pitt, I don't know where their defense was. I did have San Diego yesterday, and in this first game, I took the over. The Buffalo Denver game, I went over because Buffalo scores a lot. Doesn't really have a great defense. I don't think Denver is going to travel to Buffalo and shut them out. Buffalo usually scores pretty well at home. So first game I went over, and it's only 41, which is what I liked about it. The numbers are good. College would have been a 65, but here it's 41, which is 24-20. And, what did we get yesterday? We got 28-14, which was a 42. But all I needed was 37.5 in that game. And then the San Diego game, which you would have thought would have been an under, made the mistake of taking San Diego instead of the under. But Herbert threw a lot of interceptions. It happens. So, we'll see what happens. Anyway, good luck, everybody. So, COMEX is basically gone. You want the gold and silver physical because the demand is there. All the countries buying it. You have to get out of paper because the dollar is being inflated and not worth anything. And again, inflation is not prices, but money supply. So when you see prices going down, do not think inflation's going down. Inflation cannot be measured as a percentage. It's a lot, but everybody wants to say, oh, look at the prices are coming down. Inflation's going down. Inflation isn't prices. Mm-mm. Inflation is the dollar being worth less, but that doesn't always translate to higher prices. A lot of the times it does on certain items, but not always. Like I said, the steak, if nobody sells it, they got to put it on sale, or Coca-Cola, whatever. So that's the key to it. So just be smart. Be 5 steps ahead, which means buy the gold and silver now, because soon you won't be able to find it or afford it. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Good luck on the games. www.teaserking.com. All right. Take care.